Chapter 53. Once we were finally put into our prison cells, me and Icicle Jr. just relaxed for a couple hours, not really talking, as for one, I imagine his head was still pounding, and two, I really didn't have much to talk about with a generic villain. But finally, after a while, whatever enhanced physique Icicle Jr. had seemed to kick in despite the metahuman collar, so his concussion went away just before we got rec time. Come on Bunky, I got to introduce you to my pops. He is the big dog, the shot caller, of the male wing of the prison. Icicle Jr. boasted about his father Icicle Sr. Then me and Icicle Jr. walked over to his dad, and I saw Riddler get laughed out of the squad of hardened villains, as he was obviously not being taken seriously. Icicle Jr. remember when I said I was going to get you back for what happened in Chicago? I heard a voice growl behind us, and then Icicle Jr. got jumped on by some weirdo wearing an odd mask/helmet with a glowing eye. Ah! Icicle Jr. yelled as the man began smashing his elbow into the top of the teen villain's head. Realizing that I could integrate myself into the crew by standing up for the shot caller's son, I ran forward and threw a very light punch into the man's liver, who jumped onto Icicle Jr. Fucking brat. The man yelled as he got off Icicle Jr., and then I recognized the man more now, as Professor Ojo, one of the villains that were going after the fog way back when Robin and Superboy brought it while I fought Galatea. Not smart, kid. A voice spoke out, and then from behind me one of Professor Ojo's friends wrapped his arms under mine and then put me in a headlock with his hands cradling the back of my neck. Come on Ojo, free punch right here. The man called, and then realized I didn't have the leverage to throw the man over my shoulder like I could. With my super strength, I waited for Ojo to attempt to throw a haymaker into my face to hop up and kick the villain in the face while using the recoil to launch the villain holding me onto his back. Even as I heard Icicle Sr. call out that the fight was now over, I made sure to smash my elbow into the man's solar plexus as I got back up to my feet, which left the man still gasping on the ground, as I may or may not have used some of my super strength. Heh, I like this one. He has guts, the kinda guts I wish my own son had. Icicle Sr. said as he looked to his son with some disdain, but still, he clapped his hands. Now come here. As Icicle Jr. was let go by the other gang of inmates that were friends of Professor Ojo, he spoke up again as me and his son approached him. Not you, kid, you're not blood, nor have you earned your stripes yet. He said, waving me off, and rather than make a scene I just went to sit on the far side of the bleachers, as I saw from the girls' side of the rec room the Killer Frost was next to her dad as they made their plans to escape. No, literally they didn't even wait a full minute after Icicle Jr. got pulled into the group to begin discussing their whole escape plan, but I realized the whole picture wasn't being discussed, as anything about the light nor who was smuggling in the methods to escape were mentioned. So after biting my lip, I subtly scratched my ear and then pushed the camouflaged hearing aid-like communication device Batman stuffed into my ear that would mold into said ear and not be caught by the Super Max's security. The whole premise of their plans was to use a combination of the Frost family's ice abilities and the various supervillains with super strength in order to break down the walls and such that would be weakened by the ice-wielding villains. Yeah, that was it. Just basically dig a tunnel straight out of the prison with their super abilities while keeping the guards and warden as hostages, and methods to control the League from breaking into the prison and such. If I didn't already know, the Light was using this as some sort of scheme to release all the villains, and even to have that corrupt psychiatrist Hugo Strange made warden. I would think they had lost their game, as it were. Lord, to the League. The current escape plan is to have the half-dozen plus ice-wielding powered metahumans weaken then walls, and have the people with super strength break through the prison's walls while also taking the guards prisoner. I will await till the riot in order to break apart any plan they have to disable callers, as taking them in and breaking them apart will only make them put off their plans for a couple weeks if not months at best. I reported through the earpiece, and then with a grunt I got off the bench to go get lunch as the rec hour alarm went off. While I was generally being a loner on my own table in the corner of the cafeteria with my back to the wall so no one could come shank me or something, I saw Icicle Jr. come over to me as both he and Riddler were denied a seat at the big man's table. Icicle Jr., seeing his not-so-violent or even thuggish Bunky, quickly made his way over to me, but I saw Riddler scrutinizing the Ice family of villains, and I errantly wondered how he was the only villain to escape in all the coming chaos. Hey dude, make sure you don't get put in the shoe for the next couple hours. It's going down tonight. Icicle Jr. hissed to me, and I blinked in surprise at how honest he was, I suppose. I just nodded and continued eating my prison slop, but after literally eating demons on hell, this was a 5-course meal in comparison. What's going down? A riot, or something? I asked, pretending to not know what was going down. Icicle Jr. looked around furtively and seeing the guards focused on the other prisoners leaned in. My family is staging a major breakout and we got friends going to pick us up as soon as get away from the prison to spread us across the US. So just follow my lead and I will get you out, Bunky. He said, proudly sticking a thumb at his pale face. But then before Icicle Jr. could give me any more info, as it were, I saw Mr. Freeze and Icicle Sr. begin duking it out in the middle of the cafeteria, with Mr. Freeze yelling how Sr. wasn't the capo or shot caller in the prison anymore. Break it up, freaks. The head CO of the mess room called out and the two men ignored the guard, who then nonchalantly whipped out his remote, and then both men fell screaming on the ground as the guard obviously used the high-power setting of his remote to cripple both target and end their non-compliance. What a lucky day, Mr. Freeze. Warden Waller wants to meet you and make an example out of you. The guard said loudly, and I saw a number of prisoners recoil and otherwise cringe, making myself wonder what fucky shit Amanda Waller had got going on now, with how the Suicide Squad wasn't a thing yet here in the Young Justice universe. But then again, the show this universe was depicted in stretched over the course of 10 damned years. So, God knows when certain stuff happens. After lunch was over and we were all being escorted back ourselves in a line, I saw Icicle Sr. ignoring the line and the guards allowing him to skip as he walked over to his son and waved me off. Beat it, got some family bonding time needed. He ordered me, and this time I just stared him dead in the eye rather than accept his dismissal. I am following the line. Just because you got extra privileges for being the hardest man in the cell block doesn't mean I do, so either take your son and fuck off or stick with us and talk on the way to our cell. I offered him, and the two massive animalistic metahumans that followed and acted as Icicle Sr.'s muscle and towered over me, being like 10 feet tall each, moved to probably smash my head into a wall or something. Fine. Just shut up and don't say anything, or I will have my men snap your neck before anything interesting happens today. That way you don't ruin the surprise. Icicle Sr. warned me ruthlessly, and I saw he had every intention in following through with that threat, so I just nodded while listening as Icicle Sr. said that although they lost contact with Killer Frost in the woman's wing, the plan was going through now while Mr. Freeze was taking Waller hostage and deactivating our collars. Shit. Old man, we need to get our new threads then. Icicle Jr. cursed at the abruptness as he looked to me and the other muscle who would be in charge of breaking down the prison's walls. Then soon enough we were put back in our cells, and minutes later we were given tomorrow's uniform with Icicle Jr. telling me to change into it. Dude, change into it, we need to get ready for the escape. But before I could get into it, I shuddered as I felt the metahuman collar vibrate against my neck. Well, hurry up. It's going down now, Bunky. Icicle Jr. said gleefully as he shattered his collar with his ice powers, and then his body changed into his ice form, with his prior silverly blue hair turning into a solid block of ice and his hands becoming icy claws.